From the point of view of a wine lover, here comes the most important presentation of the day. After Theo first wrote this application for Nomad, mentioned by Uli, today he shows us the Volt version, and I'm very curious about it, and I hope I will learn a lot how to transfer it from the one side to the other side. Theo, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Andreas. Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Let's share my screen and let me know. Okay, here we go. Screen. And you should see my PowerPoint now. Is that correct?
No, we see your video.
And not my PowerPoint?
No need.
Okay, let's try this again. Oh, share.
Starting.
Yeah, Manu.
Okay, you got it now?
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's also a presentation.
Yes, here we go.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay, perfect. So let's start. Yeah, I only got half an hour. Ulrich had a lot more time, so I got to hurry up, I think, because I got a lot of things to show and I'm going to do some live demos as well. Yeah. Okay, just a little bit about me. I'm doing this notes and domino stuff for a very long time. As everybody knows me, I'm running the Engaged User Group. I'm a lifetime IBM champion and recently also a lifetime ambassador for HCL. And I like wine, but I'm sure that you will already guessed that. So this is the agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I envisioned when trying out Domino Volt, then about Volt itself. I'm going to do a long, well, no, not that long, but I'm going to do a decent demo of the wine tasting in Volt. And I'm going to teach you how I did it. And then I'm going to end up with what did we learn, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if we got time, we got some Q&A. Good. For me, I mean, this is the first application I wrote in Volt. As many of you know, Volt hasn't been on the market for a long time. So I'm just learning. I make a lot of mistakes. The app does have errors. It's a work in progress. And this is something really important. What I'm going to show you is not your typical Volt application. I mean, I wanted to remake the wine tasting app, and wine tasting app, I can guarantee you, it is not currently something you would try to do in Volt. I did, and it works sort of, but you will see at the end which were the pitfalls. Yeah. So I will put it on OpenTF shortly, even if it has errors. And so you use it at your own peril, but check it out. You might learn something or not. So a little bit about Domino Volt. Again, this is the Domino Volt as you should know it, and as you've seen it before. This is not, if you're here for seeing a simple Domino Volt presentation. I mean, there are plenty of other opportunities for seeing that. So this is not it. But I mean, Domino Volt is a really nice low-code next-gen solution. It is really fast to build by citizen developers. It is powerful, it's secure, you can build some really cool workflows. You can start from a spreadsheet or from scratch. It is a multilingual environment, so everybody, it just depends on your browser environment. If your browser has German as the default language, then the whole environment for Volt will be in German as well. It has some really cool customization features, and that's important for me and for everybody. I think it's built on top of Domino. Remember, the history was that it was not built on Domino, but Volt is the version of Leap which is built on top of Domino, and it's pretty cool. So there is a new version coming tomorrow. 1.01. I hate the fact that I only called it 1.01 because there's a lot of really cool new stuff in there, like anonymous access, direct access to Domino data, hooray, and out-of-the-box directory services. There's quite a lot more, some really, really cool features. But if you want to register, again, it's tomorrow, the official launch. Scan the QR code or type in the link there. Good. Now, about the wine tasting app. This is my original one. It's in Notes. Yeah. Notes, it's version 1.0. It was written in Notes. I mean, it looks okay, but it was not really meant to be used on a mobile device like an iPad, for instance. So I created the iPad version first for iPad and for Nomad, and then for Nomad on an iPhone. Yeah. Like Ulrich mentioned, Tom van Aken also recreated the version for an Android phone. So check that out, it's pretty neat. Yeah. All right, so wine tasting the Volt way, yeah, it's based on data exported from Notes. So I didn't start from scratch, I wanted to have some data in there. So I exported all the data, converted it to Excel, and in the spreadsheet itself, I had 3 sheets. I had a tasting list, I had a country continent list, and a list with some various keywords I use for drop-downs. Yeah. So you can put that all in one spreadsheet, and the moment you import it, like you see on the right from spreadsheet, it automatically will create basic forms for it, and you can start using it right away. All right, that's my introduction. Let's go for the demo. I'm gonna make this full screen. And I started up the Volt Manager. And here it is. I mean, everybody can see this. The welcome to HCL Domino Volt. Yeah. So I got a lot of applications and I tried, I tested, but let's immediately launch the wine tasting app as it is right now. You're almost the first ones to have seen it outside of a few people at HCL itself who I showed it to last Friday. Yeah. So this is the main screen. If you have seen the wine tasting app on Nomad, it looks pretty much the same, but it's not what you normally expect when you see a Domino Volt application, because usually when you see a Volt application, you see a form. So in this case, I had to build a lot of navigation around it, and that's pretty easy to do actually. So when I clicked on wines by vintage, for instance, it will fetch me the list of years. The reason it takes a little bit longer than you expect is because I had to sort it. Unfortunately, when you fetch information using services, the data is not sorted by default. So I can switch from one to the other. And you see that fetching the data is actually quite fast. Yeah. Let me see, I got this this thing, I don't know, I'm just going to take something. This one here from Alto Adige, for instance. And when I click on it, it opens up a form, not the way you expect, because normally in Volt, when you click on it, it opens up the form in a different tab or on the same tab. So I open it up in a dialog box, a neat, luckily a neat feature demoed in an example by Martin Lechleiter. He's the product manager. So I can go from one to the other. I go to tasting notes. I can see the label if there is one. I can see some similar wines from the same region. If I go back to wine info, for instance, I can also say, okay, show me this one on the map. And it will automatically jump me, in this case, to Google Maps. And he shows me that here is Alto Adige, or Südtirol, like the Germans know it. So that's pretty cool. One thing I haven't figured out yet, I'm working on it, is if you click on edit, you have to think about the fact that Volt is working with workflow, with stages. And if I click on edit, I want to go to a different stage. And unfortunately, he thinks that I submitted the form. So I'm going to open it up again here. I'll find a way to do it. I talked with the guys from HCL Volt, and they said there are ways to do that. So let's hope they find it out quickly. So this is the same application, but in edit mode. So the same form in edit mode, I can just say this is a white now. I change the country to Germany, and it changes here. I can have a multiple select. I can go to tasting notes. I have a dialog box where I can say, okay, I tasted it on a different date. I mean, all the things you expect from a form is there, and you can easily fill it in. Okay. At the bottom, I can say save. I'm not going to save it here because I don't want to ruin a good auto RDJ by telling it's auto RDJ from Germany. That was a joke, by the way. All right, let's go back to the main screen here, to the main entry screen. And I got here, for instance, wines by country. Also, you see this, it's a nice map. When I click on it, let's say I click on Europe, it automatically shows me the first country in Europe alphabetically. That's Austria. Let's go to Germany, for instance. And I see this. And again, I can click on it and I see my details. Let's take another example and let's go back here and go to North America and go to USA. And again, I can click on a wine and I see all the details for that particular wine. Yeah. All the same, but it works really well. I'm gonna go back to the main again and I'm switching to wines by type, where I have two filters at the same time. I can say I want to have a wine from, let's say, South Africa. I got all the reds here. When I click on white, I got all the whites from South Africa. Again, easy to do. It's just a matter of using a filter and a table, but I'm going to explain in a minute how that's done. Got one more thing to show, which is, I think, is pretty cool, and that's some statistics. So I can say, okay, I can sort them by alphabet or by top values. So let's take the type, for instance, and I can see details about all the wines I've tasted. I can go to vintage year and I can see it is. I can sort them by top value or alphabetically. I can go to country and do them alphabetically or by top value. So I can see that from France and Italy and Spain, the most wines I've tasted are from there. So pretty cool. I'm using a library called Chart.js, which I really like. It's very easy to implement, and yeah, I just love it. I've been using it for a couple of years now, and it's just one library, and it contains a lot of different types of graphics, of charts. All right, you like this? Let's find out how we did it. So I'm going back to my application, to my presentation. Notice, by the way, that I'm skipping a lot of slides here because all the slides are what you saw in the demo. So I skipped this and immediately I'm here. How do we do it? So the first thing is I got 4 forms in total. I got a welcome form with multiple pages. And as you can see in the middle image here, welcome by vintage, by type, world, by country. So that's my first welcome page, and it doesn't contain any data at all. It's just for navigating and for showing tables and for filtering and things like that. Then there is a tasting form, which is the most complex form of all because it has multiple tabs and it really contains all the wine tasting data. As you can see on the right, with their built-in view. Then there is a country form which just contains a list of countries and continents, and then there is a list form which just contains items which I use for drop-downs. Yeah, so nothing fancy here. Then some other info. So I got some files there. I got an extensive CSS, which you can see again in the middle, an extensive CSS file, and that's a sample. I based myself on the CSS which is generated by Volt itself, and then I started adapting it. You can really do some cool stuff there and play with colors and whatever you want. I mean, it's fully CSS supported. I got some images in there for the homepage, for the world map, and all the country images. I'm using multiple services throughout the forms. I'm going to talk about services a little bit later. The code itself is, I got some global functions which I use, which I defined in the application on start. It's a really good placeholder to put all your common functions you use. You can use all over the place. I got a require there as well, which loads the Chart.js library. And also the welcome form has some code in on load and on new. And there's events, there is code, event code throughout all the forms. On click on item change, whatever. All right, now let's go over a few of the pages and see what's special there. So the main welcome page, the main home page actually is pretty simple. I mean, there's behind every image, there is just an on-click event and it says, look, go to this particular page. That's all there is to it. In this first page, I also got an on-load, which creates a few listeners. Listeners is something that you can set up and you can see that the code here says, start by getting me the service for getting the countries. Yeah? And when it's finished, I can do something. So sometimes when I fetch information, after information is fetched, I want to do something extra. Like for instance, getting the first country in the list and showing the flag. Yeah. And in the on new, there is also, I could have put it on load as well, it doesn't really matter. But in the on new, I also put all my code to create and update the chart itself. But again, everything will be made available through OpenNTF, so you can have a look at it and play with it. Yeah. In the wines by country, which is a typical example of where you have a filter at the top, which you see on the right-hand side, and then the results at the bottom. The results is a table. It's just a table. A table is a kind of element, just like you can have a text field or a drop-down or a radio button. You can have a table as an element or an item on your form. And I'm calling the same service to fetch the table content initially, and also the same service when I change something in one of the filters. So if I change the country or I change the type from red to sparkling, then that same service is called to get the data and fill in the table at the bottom. And it's incredibly fast, actually. I was pleasantly surprised by that. There's also an extra on item change when you change the country. Remember that everything you do, every click you do, and everything is driven by events. So the on change event, on item change is when you change from one country to the other. Then this on item change event is triggered. And the only thing it does is I'm calling a function I created myself, set image, where I can say, okay, that particular field needs to be set to this particular image. Yeah. Notice at the bottom, there is an empty HTML field. And I use this for inserting the dialog box when I edit an entry. Remember, when I click on one of the lines in my entry, I want to open up a sort of dialog box. Yeah? And in the dialog box, I present my tasting form. So this is just an empty placeholder, and I inject actually the HTML into that field by code. Yeah. How do I edit the tasting? Well, as soon as I'm going back a second, as soon as I fill up the table here at the bottom right, as soon as I fill up the table, I also, I fetch the name and the Q and the region and the type and the price and whatever, but I also fetch something special, and that is the record unique identifier. Yeah, the global unique identifier ID. They have different names for it. So, but the official name is record unique identifier, a UNID as we know it. Yeah, and I also fetch the number of records. Yeah. Now, the table has two events. The on-show event is when initially the table is shown, it fetches the data. We have seen that before on the previous slide that I fetched the data using a service. But on the on-click event, whenever I click on a line, it gets me the selection. And from that selection, I get this record unique identifier. So every record in Volt has a unique identifier, just like in Domino. Yeah. So I get that identifier, and then I got another function I wrote, which just requires a few items of data. One of them is where is the HTML field I have to put my code in. I got the URL, and which I constructed in the line before, and I showed them which page I want to show the data on. So that's a show dialog. It's just a global function which I created to create the HTML for the dialog box. And again, look at the example done by Martin Lechleider, and you will see how it's done. I just stole the whole thing from him. When I showed it to him on Friday, he was pleasantly surprised and he immediately recognized his code, by the way.
Theo, 10 Minuten.
Sorry.
10 minutes. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Then the world map. The world map is just one big image, and I needed to put a use map on top of it. I don't know if you've ever done this with HTML, but it's been there since HTML1. And you see that at the bottom right in the image. You see that I create a map. The map has target. One of them is North America. It has a title and it has an href. And the href is something you see on the left-hand side. The href here is pretty particular because the moment you leave or you're in the normal HTML environment, in your normal DOM, the DOM doesn't know about Volt. So there is a special thing called Nitro application. So from within your window, there is a Nitro application. And when you got the window Nitro application reference, you can use all the Volt commands. So in this case, I say, look, get me the form welcome and set and get me the continent selection field, which is the one you see between the map on the right-hand side and the HTML for the use map, and set that value to Africa. That's what happens when you click on Africa. And the trick is, and it took me some time, but at the end it was just 2 lines of code, but it took me some time to figure it out. I had to link the use map to my particular image. And I do that on the unloader form. I just say, okay, query, it's the same like in jQuery, the dollar. So I use Dojo because Dojo is the underlying architecture behind Volt. I use the Dojo query. I say, look, get me the world map, which is a custom attribute of the image, and attach the use map to it. And that's the only thing I had to do. In the continent selection itself on item change, there I changed the country. Yeah. All right, the statistics, how do I do that? Actually, again, relatively easy. Upon opening this page, I load it up and I load all the data in my database because I do statistics on all the data. It's about 400 records. I load it all into the table. I mean, there are different ways of doing it, but this was the easiest to implement. And both of the filters have an item change. If one of the items changes and there is a value in there, I say, okay, run me the statistics function and the do stat. So the do stat is defined on new. And what it does, it manipulates the data in the table to an array. And thanks to the help of Thomas Baan, I was able to do it because my JavaScript knowledge is not bad, but yeah, I needed a little bit of help. So, and thank you, Thomas, again for helping me out there. At the moment I get my data in the array, I use the chart.js library to create or update if the chart exists and push that HTML it generates into the canvas. So the canvas is a thing you see at the bottom there. Canvas ID is wine chart, and it puts it there in between. All right, lessons learned. I still have about 5 minutes, I think. Yeah. Lessons learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So first, the good. It is really a modern development environment. I love it. It has a cool interface, and you can build some nice responsive pages. Yeah. It's ideal for gathering information. So for survey types of applications, it's just perfect. You can build some really complex forms very easily without any code. Adding the workflows to it is nice once you understand the stages model, because it's something we're not used to as a Domino developer. The table element, they're really cool to use, they're fast, and they're easy to implement. Data is securely stored in an HCL Domino database. It is very customizable, either through a built-in editor for the CSS or through custom CSS, and it's completely extensible for JavaScript libraries. The documentation, support, and examples are really good. I mean, the forum is really well followed up. If you have a question, you can guarantee that within 24 hours, somebody from the HCL Volt team response to it. Yeah. The less good. Views are not available. I mean, there are tables and they're flexible, but they miss some basic features we all know and love, like categorization and paging and searching. There is no direct interface with Domino data yet. There is REST API now, but as of tomorrow, there will be direct Domino data services, which is really cool. There is no anonymous access yet, but it's coming tomorrow. All right. And the rich text editor is missing. And for me, that's something quite crucial. There is not something out of the box. I mean, you can use a library, an external library and use it there, but it's not supported by default. Yeah. And as a low-code solution, you really often need to code if you go a little bit further than the basics. And this is for me actually a sort of summary of what the current status of Volt is. It does support CRUD, create, read, edit, update, sorry, create, read, update, delete, but it is really focused on create at the moment. Yeah. The ugly part, well, depends on what you call it ugly, but once you go beyond the basics, you really need some extra developer skills. You have to be able to think out of the box and say, how can I approach this? And you definitely need some JavaScript if you want to do some serious development. Debugging, especially services, is a pain. I mean, you can do the standard JavaScript debugging using web tools, and it's really nice and you definitely need it. But debugging services is something that's difficult to do or almost impossible to do. And there are always many ways to solve an issue, but very often none of them are ideal, or you need some really tricky workarounds. Yeah. And yes, the data is in nodes, but if you want to develop or you want to use the same app in a nodes client, you need to develop an extra user interface. Because you're developing Volt is a browser interface, so you're developing the browser, but not the nodes client. So my advice, think about a job, what needs to be accomplished, and if it's the right tool for you, give it a try, because you really might be very pleasantly surprised. That's it. I hope you have some questions for me, or we have some time for questions at least.
I think we have time. Thanks for this point of view about Volt, especially if you compare it with knowledge about nodes and Nomad, and many things you have seen in the Volt builder that you can do with Volt is very interesting, and I think many nodes developer can see what they can do with Volt, and can see what is the differentiation between nodes and Volt. But nevertheless, try it out. I think that is the best tip from this presentation. Volt is the right tool for many things, and it's just the beginning. That is a good story.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Do we have questions? Yeah. Eric mentioned that the new version is already there. I think you can download it from FlexNet. Tomorrow is a worldwide announcement call. That's right, it is tomorrow, and you can always register for this introduction that we get tomorrow from the product marketing or management. From Bernd comes the question: readers and author fields in data documents are recognized correctly by Volt.
So repeat that again.
Readers and author fields in data documents are recognized correctly by Volt, right?
Let's say authors and reader fields are not in Volt by default. If you add them, or if the records are already added in nodes and they have readers and author fields, nodes definitely will oblige. And if you do not have reader access to a certain document, you will not see it in Volt. Same for authors. So Volt does oblige, but like I said, you have to wrap your head around the way stages work. Volt does not work the same way. I mean, you can set up roles like you do in Nodes,
Yeah.
and I think the Volt team did a great job there. But I mean, there is not something like a reader field and an author field which you can create in Volt itself.
Yeah, I think today it's not a good idea to mix and match core nodes technique in the automatically built Volt applications. It works sometimes, but it's very difficult to understand which technique works in which manner. So you can come from the external nodes application and get data from your Volt application that is also based on your Domino server. But I think you don't go too many in the core Volt application that is built by the Volt builder. You can do something, but be aware of what you do and look what has happened when you do something in the Volt template.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. So I think there's no other question. But if you have any question right now, you can open your mic and can ask directly here.
Erik, hier, sag mir Bescheid, wenn ich kurz was zeigen kann.
Yeah, okay. We have a short information from Eric, and so we change the screen to Eric's screen.
Okay. Okay, I have actually a two-part question, and then it goes with an information that's new as of the new Volt version 101, which, as we learned, is out already.
Eric, Entschuldigung, du musst dann den Bildschirm noch übernehmen.
Yeah. As part of the license change or as part of the new license that comes with Volt, you get basically access to both the artist, which was formerly known as Lotus Enterprise Integrator, as well as the new SAP connector for free, because these two products come as what we call a supporting program with the Volt license. And actually, my question is, we are very much interested in customers who want to integrate Volt with external data sources, who, for example, want to build Volt applications that have the need to reach out to other systems. And you should now see on the screen a list of connectors to other systems, such as Salesforce, for example, or such as ServiceNow, or such as selected SAP applications or Oracle. And so if you see the need, if you have a use case in mind that you would like to realize with the help of a Volt application, and you are interested in doing a POC that demonstrates that kind of connectivity, please let us know, let me know, let Andreas know, and we should be able to get you in touch with the correct people here at HCL, because we are very keen to learn about these use cases, and we are very keen to get together to make together with you the first real hands-on experience in setting up the connectivity to those external environments. So just as a reminder, as a heads up, if you are in such a situation, please let us know. Thanks.
Danke. Any more questions to Theo, to Eric, to us? Feel free to open your mic and ask us anything you want to know about it. Okay.
All right, guys, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I mean, you saw my credentials, just reach out and I try to answer them.